Well, all that he had to say is that this was Eden where everything's perfect. But this is, years later, I realized that the book of Genesis never says that the Garden of Eden was perfect. In fact, perfect is a really interesting word. And I think one of the things we've got to come to terms with in our reading of Genesis is that when we read Genesis, we read it through the eyes of Christian theologians through the centuries. A lot of them that go back to Augustine. And they go back to this idea of the fall, which I believe more than we realize has been influenced by Neoplatonic philosophy. Now, we could get into this in great depth if you want, but one of the concepts of the great Greek philosopher Plato is that the world, that the ultimate reality is this changeless, static world of perfection, perfect ideas. And what we experience are just shadows down here of these perfect ideas. And in some ways, I think what happened in Christian theology is that between the time of Jesus and the time of Augustine, Christians bought into a lot more bought into a lot more of Plato than they realized. So when they read Genesis 1, when it said, and God says it was good, in their mind, that means good as defined by Plato, meaning perfect, changeless, timeless, no struggle, no death, that sort of thing. But what the book of Genesis actually says is good. And so I like to tell people, I think the Hebrew concept of good is better than the Greek concept of perfect, because perfect is unchanging. So perfect is inherently sterile. With Greek perfection, it's sterile. But with Hebrew good, good is fertile. Good can create new things. So the universe that God creates, the world that God creates, is a fertile world, not a sterile, changeless world.